2025. We'll break down the local elections occurring within both Tompkins County and New York State, as well as taking a look at the race for New York City Mayor. All that and more coming up tonight on Election Night. Welcome to ICTV's 2025 Election Night coverage. My name is Nikita Lohman. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We have quite the show for you this evening and quite the hard-working team behind it. I'll be here in ICTV's Studio B until the end of our broadcast, bringing you election information, race updates, and breaking election results from Tompkins County. We begin our night with our first results from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The Steel City had two candidates. Democrat Corey O'Connor ran against Republican Tony Moreno for mayor. Democrat Corey O'Connor came out on top and is the projected winner of the race. He gained 92% of the vote from the city. O'Connor, the current Allegheny County Controller and a former Pittsburgh City Council member, O'Connor will now be tasked with rebuilding a budget many see as weak and unrealistic. Also ready called is Jersey City. We hope you all got out there to vote today. But Jersey City, who faced its... Also in New Jersey is one of only two gubernatorial races this election season for New Jersey governor. The race between the Democratic U.S. Representative Mikey Sherrill will be on later. We hope you all got out there to vote today. If you did, you may have noticed that your polling location is different from this summer's primaries or last fall. That's because the Tompkins County legislative map change passed in 2023, and it's just now having an effect on this year's election. This redistricting added 2 new districts, bringing the number of total representatives to 16 across the county. This move also combined some districts, including previous Ward 2 and 4. Although this hasn't currently led to any issues with incumbents facing off, there could still be some confusion regarding splitting up wards, as this is the first election cycle with new districts for some wards. Now, let's pivot to the races that are occurring in Ithaca's 5 wards. Ithaca's first ward, which covers much of the city's west end, is contested between Democrat Jorge DeFendini and Republican Zach Wynn. DeFendini served on the council from 2021 to 2023 in Ward 4, when he was ousted by Patrick Kuhl in a last-minute write-in campaign. DeFendini aims to continue his public service work, focusing on housing affordability and employment stability. Zach Wynn is the author of IthacaCrime.com and has run for the Ithacan government in the past, but has yet to be elected. Wynn is running on a platform of combating the drug and affordability crises. Our reporter Graham Wohlers sat down with both of Ward 1's candidates, and now he's here in the studio to tell us more about it. Graham?
Thanks, Nikita. This week, I spoke to Jorge DeFendini and Zachary Wynn, the candidates for the race to serve as alderperson in Ithaca's first ward. We spoke about their campaigns and intentions if elected. Let's take a look. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to speak with Democratic Jorge DeFendini and Republican Zachary Wynn as they prepare for the race to serve as alderperson in Ithaca's first ward. Both DeFendini and Wynn spoke about the importance of affordability in Ithaca, which is a big-ticket issue that many community members and local politicians are stressing this election day. DeFendini believes that President Trump ran on empty promises of reducing grocery prices and recognizes the implications that they are having locally.
On the local level, we have to focus on what we can control, and there are a couple of things that we can do to address that.
He suggests rezoning areas to build affordable, quality housing, as well as increasing fines for inattentive landlords disregarding things like mold and broken appliances, and mentions the importance of just cause labor protections, while Wynn takes a different approach to this issue.
The number one thing to do would be to begin the process of rescinding the memorandum of understanding between Cornell University and the city and go into a renegotiation.
He considers that since Cornell has the funds for multi-million-dollar properties, they should reevaluate their efforts to benefit the day-by-day operations of the Ithaca community at large. During his first term, Defendini wrote a resolution to make Ithaca a safe haven for anyone who is a recipient or provider of gender-affirming services, and hopes to continue to make this a focus of his second term on the City Council.
Interact. We want to make sure that people in their neighborhood associations, in their apartment complexes, at their jobs, that they're practicing the same sanctuary mindset of not cooperating with people who are trying to persecute our queer neighbors.
He also stressed the uncertainty right now in the federal government.
We have to focus on what we can control, and on the local level you have so much influence.
As a city, Defendini points out how we can abolish at-will employment, create rent stabilization, and believes that people should come before profit. Moving to Zachary Wynn's platform, he feels that the drug crisis in Ithaca is something that needs to be addressed and has been ignored by the City Council in the past. He puts a focus on doing anything we can to keep people from dying on the street in the many areas of Ithaca populated by the homeless community.
I believe there needs to be a real serious effort to address this crisis, and the kind of resources that are required are simply not available here locally or even from the county. So,
as a primarily blue city, Wynn recognizes that his odds to be elected to City Council are not in his favor, but hopes that more people, regardless of political affiliation, will take the initiative to get involved in local politics.
There are major decisions that are made here in the city that have reverberations throughout the county, and the rest of the county lives in the wake of the decisions that are made by the Ithaca County Council. So
Reporting for I'm Graham Wohlers.
Thanks, Graham. Ithaca Wards 2, 3, and 4 have candidates running unopposed. In Ward 2, attorney Joe Kirby is running as the incumbent to represent the Fall Creek and downtown Ithaca area on a platform of reforming public safety. He aims to continue the process of adding unarmed public safety officers to the Ithaca Police Department, started under a 2021 bill. In Ward 3, Pat Sewell is running unopposed as a Democrat to represent the area right outside of Ithaca College. Sewell is an adjunct professor at Tompkins County Community College and serves on the board at the Green Star Co-op. Sewell will focus on improving the city's infrastructure and promoting financial transparency. In Ward 4, Robin Trumbull, a first-time candidate, is running to represent much of Collegetown. He's running to continue sustainability efforts and improve the entertainment industry in Ithaca. Moving to Ward 5, candidates Hannah Schvetz and Jeep Zarenda are tackling Ithaca's affordability. Schvetz, a third-year Cornell University student, advocates for the community through work with local organizations, including the Ithaca Tenants Union, the Ithaca Teachers Association, and the Just Cause Coalition. Her platform aims to address housing and labor stability along with environmental concerns. Schvetz is running as a Democrat with an endorsement by the Working Families Party. Zarenda has worked in manufacturing and management throughout Ithaca. He has served on committees such as the city's planning board, the Board of Family and Children's Services, and the Advocacy Center. Zarenda's platform focuses on housing and climate, including lowering property taxes. And now, we're going to turn to our big board analyst, CC Gabriel, to take a closer look at the geographics of Ithaca's 5 wards and the races within them.
Well, thanks, Nikita. Now let's take a broader look at the 5 wards in the city of Ithaca and where they're located. Ward 1, notably the largest of the 5 on this map, encompasses a majority of the city to the west of the downtown commons, and then including the south side and western South Hill and West Hill, the north side Triangle Inlet Island. And the election happening in Ward 1 is one of the 2 contested races in the city for Ithaca. For alderperson, Democrat Jorge Defendini is facing up against Zachary Wynn, who is a Republican. Ward 2 spans the center of the city, covering the entire downtown commons, the north side of parts of Fall Creek as well. Uncontested for alderperson is Ward 2 Democrat and Working Families Party candidate Joseph Kirby. Now, Ward 3 encompasses the south and southeast areas of the city, including South Bell Sherman, as well as parts of Collegetown and eastern South Hill. However, Ward does not include Ithaca College campus. Running uncontested in Ward 3 for alderperson is Democrat Pat Sewell. Ward 4, while it seems to be the smallest of the 5, the area encompasses most of Collegetown, which includes the entirety of Cornell University's campus. Uncontested for alderperson in Ward 4 is Democrat Robin Trumbull. Finally, Ward 5, spanning the northeast of the city, includes University Hill, and it reaches into parts of Cayuga Heights. Ward 5 is home to the other contested race in the city of Ithaca. In this election cycle within the Democrat Hannah Shivitz and Affordable Ithaca Party candidate Jeep Surrenda is running for alderperson. We'll be tracking elections and the results in all 5 awards as the night progresses. And now our live hit reporters Nash Carlisto and Christian Grotto are currently joining us from the field at 2 different election watch parties. Nash joins us from Cornell's Creative Arts Center,
I'm here
where we see Ward 1 and Ward 5 candidates Jorge DiFendini and Hannah Shvetz. Supporters have been gathered. Christian is at Ward 5, and candidate Jeep Zorenda's watch party is at College Town's Dos Amigos. Nash, how are things going?
I'm here at the Creative Hub where the DSA is holding an election watch party. I'm joined now by Jorge DiFendini, District 1. Now, Jorge, today's election day. What are the vibes like? How are you feeling here at this party and now, today?
Vibes are really good. We're very happy to come to the culmination of a really well-run race. Very proud of all the volunteers and supporters that we've had. We've had a ton of support, the biggest coalition of any of the candidates running in City Council in the city of Ithaca this year, and it's showing in the results right now as they're coming in. They're looking really positive for us.
Yeah, so I'm hearing that some of the polling sites are being called in your favor. How does that feel? How does it feel that you may be representing Ithaca for the Common Council in District 1?
I'm honored. When I was representing, still in college, the College Town Ward, Ward 4, from 22 to 23, it was my first time to come back here and be accepted by the first ward where I had to move for affordability reasons, running a campaign on affordability. How can we make it so that more people can stay in the city that they want to live in, that they can afford to, at their job, at their homes? We're really happy about how that race came together, and we've shown that people want a positive vision. We want someone to fight for us. We want to fight for something, not just against or out of fear.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much.
Back to you, Cece.
Nash and Christian, how are things going at Dos Amigos with Jeep?
Yeah, Jeep Surrenda is running for the 5th Ward of the Ithaca Common Council. He's been endorsed by a couple local legislators, including Martha Robertson and Rich John from the Tompkins County Legislature, as well as Margaret Fabrizio from the Ithaca Common Council. She's currently on that right now. Jeep is a local resident of Ithaca. He's been here for about 39 years. He's originally from Elmira, New York. He's actually here joining us tonight. Jeep, how are you feeling tonight?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. What would you say is the intent and the inspiration behind your election motto to build a more affordable Ithaca?
Well, I've lived here for a long time, and I have a modest house in the 5th Ward up by North Campus. And I've got a lot of neighbors that are saying, we have to sell our houses and move because the taxes are so high, we can't afford to stay here. A lot of them are like me, a bit older on fixed income, and there's one woman that said, my taxes are $18,500. I got to sell, and that's hard. We want to stay here.
All right. Well, thank you, Jeep. That's all from here at the election watch party. Back to you guys in the studio.
Thank you both so much. We'll be right back after a quick break with more local races in Tompkins County. Stick with us. Welcome back to election night. Now we're going to send things back to Nash Carlisto, who is at Jorge DiFendini's watch party after he was just called as the winner. Nash?
Thanks, Nikita. Less than 15 minutes after the polling sites here in Ithaca closed, I just got word from Mr. DiFendini himself that he got off the phone with Rob Cantelmo, mayor of Ithaca, who told him that he will have a pleasure governing with him, and he is very excited to have him back on Common Council. So now that this race is called, we'll send it back to Nikita for more results as they continue to roll in.
New representatives on the Tompkins County Legislature and municipal legislative bodies, including the Ithaca Common Council, are on the ballot for the District 14 seat. The district represents the eastern and southern portion of the town of Ithaca. Michelle Wright, graduate student at Cornell University, is running as a third-party candidate and will represent her own The People First Party. Wright served on the Trumansburg Central School District Board of Education. She says her goal, if elected, is to work with school districts and other municipalities to find and reduce the local tax burden and other costs that burden residents. Her opponent, Christy Bianconi, won the Democratic and Working Families Party nomination with no opposition before Wright joined the race last month. Bianconi aims to increase affordability by lowering tax burdens for new homeowners, investments in child care subsidiaries, and job training that eases the cost of living. Other key issues include sustainability, mental health, and the homelessness crisis. And now, we're joined in the studio by reporter Andrew Krause, who took a deep dive into the history of a Tompkins County organization. Andrew?
Thanks, Nikita. I had the pleasure of sitting down with 3 members of the League of Women Voters in Tompkins County. They told me about the foundation of the chapter and the league, and what it is that group does. Let's take a look. A political organization with an outreach spanning across all 50 states and roughly 700 cities. It was initially founded in 1920 when women gained the right to vote. The Tompkins County chapter was founded the very same year. Their mission statement is as follows. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan grassroots organization working to protect and expand voting rights and ensure everyone is represented in our democracy. We empower voters and defend democracy through advocacy, education, and litigation at the local, state, and national levels. We had the opportunity to speak to several members of the Tompkins County chapter about the upcoming election season.
We have to do a lot of work before the community is starting to pay attention.
Tompkins County has seen a variety of outreach and advocacy from the League of Women's Voters, ranging from voter forums to their distribution of information. We spoke to Chris St. Clair and Nancy Skipper, 2 volunteers for the League of Women's Voters, who provided information about the League's varying voter resources.
It's a remarkable event organized by the League of Women Voters. Different groups in the county approached the League to organize what they call candidate forums. And that enables a structured, well-organized environment in which candidates are asked questions by people who come from the community to attend the forum. They submit the questions. The questions are given to the candidates, and each candidate for each position has an opportunity to respond. And then they're also given some time to respond to one another afterwards.
Vote411.org is a nonpartisan website organized by the League of Women Voters to share a variety of relevant information. The site includes voter registration resources, local election information, and most relevant to our interview, candidate information.
Vote411.org was created by the League of Women Voters, and the goal for this website is to provide nonpartisan information on all of the candidates and the propositions that are going to be present on the ballot, wherever you are. This website is nationwide, so it's in all 50 states.
Vote411.org also employs volunteers for candidate outreach to allow users to compare ballot information. The site can serve as both a nonpartisan database for voters and a helpful tool for candidates.
It gives them free advertising. They have opportunities to explain who they are and why they want to be elected to that office.
The common theme among all the members of the League of Women's Voters is their commitment to honest, nonpartisan democracy. In a time when many conversations are avoided due to impending disagreements, the League of Women's Voters dares to have those difficult conversations and search for common ground.
We should all be working together on housing issues. We should all be working together on police issues, safety issues, health issues. But when we work together, we should work together with a diversity of voices.
Reporting for ICTV, I'm Andrew Krause.
There are several contested races in the town of Dryden. In Dryden's Legislative District 10, the seat of county legislator is up for election. There are 2 candidates vying for the seat. Dan Wakeman is the Democratic Working Families candidate and has previously served as deputy mayor. His opponent is Thomas C. Corey, who is running under the Bull Moose Party. Also up for election in Dryden's Legislative Districts 9 through 11 are 2 seats on Dryden's Town Council. Running for the seats are Democrat and Working Families Party member Daniel L. Lamb, Democrat and Working Families Party Leonardo J. Vargas Mendez, and Republican David Bravo Cullen. Dryden voters will elect 2 of the 3 candidates to the council this election season. This year, the New York State ballot features a proposal to authorize the construction of ski trails and accompanying amenities at the Mount Van Hoevenberg Olympic Sports Complex in the Adirondack Forest Preserve. In exchange for the almost 330 acres being used for the trails, the state will acquire an additional 2,500 acres to the Forest Preserve. These new trails are being designed to host global trainings and events in Lake Placid. The proposal acts as retroactive approval for an expansion at the sports complex. Coming up after the break, we have an interview with current Ward 1 alderperson Kayla Matos. Stay with us. Welcome back to Election Night 2025. I'm privileged to be joined tonight by current Ward 1 alderperson and Deputy Director of Southside Community Center, Kayla Matos. Thank you for joining us today, Kayla.
Thank you for having me.
It's truly a pleasure to have you here.
Yes.
We have a few questions for you today. The first is, what does your day-to-day life look like while serving as alderperson for Ward 1?
So since it is, we are local electeds, the day-to-day, even the week-to-week can look a little different. Right now, being that we are in budget season, that's pretty much in council chambers twice a week, along with assisting with the advisory groups that take up a couple hours of our days, answering emails with constituents, and then some of the other things. So I'd say probably like a good 10 to 15 hours a week.
Now,
Yeah.
What are some of the challenges that you or your fellow Common Council members have faced in the past year?
Oof, okay, that's a good question. Some of the challenges, as the community knows, as we were very close to finishing our budget season, it was discovered that we have a $2.1 million deficit. So that is like one of the current challenges that we are facing, is how do we reduce the deficit with maintaining the services and programs that we currently are offering and our people. So that's one. Another challenge that we've been facing, of course, is being a sanctuary city, and the federal administration and how they've been responding to that. Some of like the grant opportunities that we've had, having ICE come through our communities multiple times. Yeah, that's pretty much been our last year.
Now, what is one change that you hope to implement in the city of Ithaca before the end of your term?
Oof. One of the changes I did implement by being able to be a part of the voting body for the Good Cause legislation that allowed people to stay in their homes through eliminating unjust evictions by non-renewals. Another legislation that I'm carrying right now is Just Cause, which would end at-will employment in the city of Ithaca, really impacting a lot of our most marginalized communities, and that they're facing disproportionate firings or terminations. We're really close to coming to some sort of legislation on that. Right now we're at the public engagement part. So I'm hoping that, within the next 2 years before my term ends, we'll be able to actually bring forward legislation that we can vote on, as well as just figuring out how to make Ithaca a more affordable place, right? And like how can we reduce taxes without really taking a hit on our services that we're offering right now.
And of course, as you've touched on, you've got some experience under your belt as alderperson now. Do you have any advice for whomever will step into the contested alderperson position in Ward 1?
Well, luckily, the Democratic nominee who is currently looking at potentially being the other Ward 1 representative, Jorge DiFedini, I have a long-standing relationship with. He's actually one of the folks that I was telling you about that was like, you should run. So he's actually prepped me for this. I think it's more so about understanding the different personalities that we have on council, and how do we work cohesively so that we can further, because we all have the same goal of we want Ithaca to be an affordable place that people want to live, right? So how are we working together regardless of where our opinions are, or where we how we feel, to actually make that goal happen.
I'm so glad you mentioned your experience, working with fellow council members. How would you describe how that is, working, managing relationships, and just generally working to get that common goal done with your fellow council members?
So a few weeks ago, I actually had a field trip. I was a part of a field trip for the senior class of IHS, and I said the hardest part of this job is the personalities, right? It's being able to meet people where they're at, understand people's perspectives, understand that we all come from different lived experiences, and that's really what's, kind of driving our advocacy for the policies and, the stuff that we want to see in the city. So I think that's definitely it, like understanding people, for sure.
And we've got one last question for you here today, and that is, how has the redistricting in Ithaca impacted your position?
The redistricting in Ithaca for Ward 1 is the biggest ward of the 5 within the city of Ithaca, right? We are the most diverse. We have most of our working class families in our ward, as well as most of the affordable apartment complexes that we have within the city is in that ward. But then we have some of our more wealthier homeowners that's in that ward. So I think it's really been about how do we balance it all? How do I advocate and fight for my tenants, but also remember that we still have homeowners that also need the same type of advocacy on their end, right? So yeah, I don't know if that answered the question.
Yes, you sure did. And we thank you again so much, Kayla, for joining us today. It's been a pleasure to speak to you this evening. Coming up after this short break, we'll have more on the New York City mayoral race. Stick with us. Welcome back to Election Night. We have breaking results from the state of New Jersey in one of only 2 gubernatorial races this election season for New Jersey governor. The race was between the Democratic U.S. Representative Mikey Sherrill and Republican former Assemblyman Jack Ciattarelli. Taking the race as the projected winner is Mikey Sherrill with 56.9% of the vote. Throughout her campaign, Sherrill criticized the Trump administration. Sherrill has attempted to connect her opponent and the president, despite Ciattarelli continuing to distance himself from Trump's policies, although he still offers his support to the administration. Today in New York City, 3 candidates vie for the position of mayor: Democrat Zoran Mamdani, Republican Curtis Sliwa, and Independent Andrew Cuomo. Current Democratic Mayor Eric Adams was indicted for corruption earlier this year, but the charges were dropped by the federal government in April. Adams had initially planned to run for re-election in the Democratic primary, but announced in April he would instead run as an independent in the general election. Zoran Mamdani, a state assembly member from Queens, running on a populist social media-centric platform, ultimately won the Democratic primary in June, beating Andrew Cuomo, the former governor of New York State, who resigned from office in 2021 after the publication of a report detailing alleged sexual harassment of nearly a dozen women. Cuomo announced in July he would continue his campaign for mayor as an independent. Republican Curtis Sliwa, the founder of the vigilante organization Guardian Angels, who ran unsuccessfully for mayor in 2021, is also a major contender. Mayor Adams dropped out of the race completely in September and endorsed Cuomo a month later. Cuomo is also endorsed by former Mayor Michael Bloomberg and President Donald Trump. Even after 2 debates featuring all 3 major candidates, polls continue to disagree about the leader of the race. This race is highly contested, with political candidates holding very unique views on all fronts. We're now joined in the studio by analysts Jenna Johnson, Travis Conway, and Ali Magistro to break down each candidate. Let's start with Jenna. Can you tell us a little bit more about candidate Andrew Cuomo?
Well, former New York State Governor Andrew Cuomo is running for mayor of New York City as an independent candidate. After a surprising defeat by Zoran Mamdani in the Democratic primary, Cuomo is running on promises of affordability, public safety, housing, childcare, and sanitation. He plans to use targeted outreach as well as addiction and mental health resources to reduce homelessness in the city. Cuomo has proposed career technical education, CTE, in public schools through private partnerships. He also hopes to address the problem of chronic absenteeism if elected.
Yeah, so the red beret-wearing Republican nominee for mayor Curtis Sliwa has carved himself out as an authentic, boisterous, straight-talking New Yorker. He separated himself from the other candidates during the debates with his stories and scathing criticisms of Cuomo and Mamdani. His platform focuses on public safety by growing the NYPD and affordable housing by repealing the City of Yes Act and restoring vacant rent control apartments. Though polls show him behind Mamdani and Cuomo, he has said that he is not dropping out, despite also being reportedly offered $10 million by Cuomo's campaign.
All right, Ali. Now, let's hear about Mamdani.
Well, Zohran Mamdani is running as the Democratic candidate for mayor of New York City in this 2025 election. As an active member of the New York State Assembly since 2021, he identifies himself as a Democratic socialist. Mamdani has been building his campaign around affordability, while also proposing his ideas for lower rent costs, fare-free city buses, city-run grocery stores, universal childcare, and funding through higher taxes on corporations and high-earning workers. Mamdani has also been able to appeal to the younger city voters as his large social media presence has thoroughly progressed throughout this election. He and one of his current opponents, former governor of New York City, Andrew Cuomo, have exchanged words multiple times throughout this process. But Mamdani remains focused on the campaign.
It's great to have an overview of these three candidates, but now let's pivot to specific issues New Yorkers are facing and how they plan to tackle those issues. At the top of most New Yorkers' minds, with rising rents and good prices, is affordability. How do your candidates aim to tackle the rising cost of living in the city?
Well, starting off with Curtis Sliwa here. In terms of affordability, his big thing is repealing the City of Yes, which he has said it prevents the development, developer-driven overdevelopment, right? And the thing there, most important, critics say that this will actually be worse for homeowners in terms of raising rent because it allows more developers to push more. He also wants to restore rent-controlled apartments. He's looking at 28,000 rent-controlled apartments that he's looking to free up. And he wants to prioritize new rent-stabilized units specifically for seniors and working families. Again, critics say that this might actually end up pricing New Yorkers out of New York City instead of making it more affordable for them to live.
Yeah, well, if we take a look at Andrew Cuomo, he was saying a big plan for his is to build more apartment units. He's proposing 500,000 units over a decade through an aggressive development plan. To finance this, he's talking about 485X tax abatement plan, which will incentivize this affordable housing as well, and using stakeholders if that fails. He's planning to also leverage NYC pension funds as a source of capital, while also partnering with faith-based institutions, as he said, using surpluses land they own, which this could be bypassed by bureaucratic obstacles, and then bring vacant rent-stabilized apartments back on the market through enforcement and repair subsides, establish state-city program for capital subsides for affordable housing, about $5 billion he proposed, and strengthening tenant rights, expand income eligibility, enforce rent regulations, and stricter penalties for landlords as well.
So to go back for Zohran Mamdani, as I said before, his heavy focus in this election is affordability, as he's trying to alleviate those higher financial burdens for the lower class in New York City. However, his initiatives include rent freezing, free faster buses, universal childcare, stronger sanctuary laws, along with congestion pricing and transportation. To fund these ideas and these initiatives for the lower class, he plans on raising taxes on corporations and more of the wealthy New Yorkers, as so it can even out. As well as critics have alleged that his policies are huge ideas and they can be quite difficult to implement, and if not difficult, seemingly impossible. So that is something to look at when dealing with his policies on affordability.
So those are the New York City mayoral candidates' views on making the city more livable and affordable. But now let's pivot to crime. New York City is a very metropolitan area, and that leads to higher rates of violent and nonviolent crimes. How do your respective candidates plan to handle crime in the city? Travis, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so the big thing for Curtis Sliwa, he wants to expand the NYPD. He said he wants to hire up to 7,000 new NYPD officers. He also wants to reinstate a lot of units. The big one being the NYPD anti-crime unit, which was shut down in 2002 after racial profiling. As you notice, that's right after 9/11, and then was shut down again in 2020 due to funding issues. And then he also wants to bring back reinstate the homeless outreach unit, which was also shut down in 2020. That one more due to funding, but that one, it was shut down, one, due to funding, two, due to the city of New York believing that it was just not necessary to have the police involved in it. They should have more social workers, but he wants to bring that back. He also wants to end repeat offenders by getting rid of cash-free bail. That's the big thing. And also enhance proactive and intrusive strategies to prevent crime. So again, with the anti-crime unit, stopping crime before it happens. That's his big thing.
Cuomo, similarly to that a little bit, is also projecting with the adding more NYPD officers to be able to stop crime before it happens. He's saying to add about 5,000 police officers, offer them bonuses as well, and then redirect police focus to repeat offenders and retail theft. He also plans to make a more permanent NYPD presence in subways as well, which has been a big location for crime within the city, and making more MTA officers work with district attorneys to address the vandalism and drug use on the subway, prevent turnstile hopping on subway, and increase outreach to unhoused people on the subway as well, with really landing this campaign on the subways.
So now moving on to Zoran Mamdani once again. So his plans center around the creation of a Department of Community Safety. That's his main plan going into crime. As he said, he's also heavily focused on that aspect in this election as well. So the purpose of that department would be to prevent violence before it happens, similar to what Travis was just saying, which have been consistently shown to improve safety. However, he also thinks that the current size that the NYPD is appropriate for what it is. However, he does have plans to change current officers' responsibilities, and some of those responsibilities include their response times to more of the more violent crimes in New York City, as well as mental health outreach workers in the department as well.
Thank you so much. Now, we're going to head over to Studio A to our big board analyst, Cece Gabriel, with some more insight and updates on the NYC mayoral race. Cece?
Well, thanks, Nikita. This is a real interesting news. The news has just broken out of New York City that Zoran Mamdani has just won the mayoral election with a 50.4% of the vote. Now, to gain some insight on how the mayoral election may have been influenced, let's take a look closer at the individual boroughs and how they have been split in the 2024 presidential election. Now, starting with Staten Island here, it is undoubtedly the borough with the highest Trump voting percentage. Now, in the southern states here, with over 80% in favor of Donald Trump, it grows gradually as we hit the northern districts with majority, although slim, for Harris. Now we're going to move along to Brooklyn. Yet again, we have a very strong split district along the north and the south, but in the more central south neighborhoods, we see a more staunch support of Trump in comparison to the edges of Brooklyn. Now we move staunchly over in favor of Harris by margins of over 90%. And now here we are in Queens. We have one of the most divided districts. In southern Queens, we have an area once again with over 90% of the margin for Harris. However, moving more towards the north, right up here, many of the neighborhoods are the most divided that we've ever seen yet, with Trump taking some and Harris taking others. Now moving to the Bronx, while a large majority of the votes were for Harris, there's been a steady increase of Republican candidates gaining votes from the Bronx, which allowed Trump to take a larger margin of the percentage. Now moving west to Manhattan, we have a district that has safely voted Harris with margins of at least 50%. Overall, Harris has safely won in New York City and in the state of New York as well, taking the state's 28 electoral votes, and we'll know shortly how New York City mayoral race had panned out. In the case, it was Mamdani, and we'll definitely get to see how interesting it is in the rest of New York State.
Welcome back to Election Night 2025. In Binghamton, incumbent Republican Jared Cram and Democratic nominee Miles Burnett face off to be mayor of the city. Cram's campaign spotlights his past accomplishments as mayor and deputy mayor, most notably his improvement of public safety and his prioritization of code enforcement. Burnett, who before launching his mayoral campaign ran a nonprofit focused on economic growth and worked as deputy chief of staff for a state senator, hopes to expand affordable housing in the city, emphasizing the importance of initiative in local projects and not relying solely on federal funding. The Buffalo mayoral race is faced with three candidates. The heavily favored Democrat and New York State Senator Sean Ryan is contested by Republican former Erie County Assistant District Attorney James Gardner, running as the Republican. He is also running against independent Michael Gaynor, the founder of Buffalo Reuse Action. However, most residents are concerned about who will replace Ryan's seat on the state Senate. Two Democrats have made it known of their intent to run for the seat next year, Assemblyman John Rivera, as well as the Democratic Party chair and Erie County Elections Commissioner Jeremy Zellner. Also already called is Jersey City, who faced its most competitive mayor's race in over 20 years. There were 4 frontrunners in the polls today. Former Governor Jim McGreevey, former school board president Musab Ali, musician Kalki Jane Rose, and Joyce Waterman, the president of the city council. The winner of the election is not declared yet. We will let you know when we have more. We'll be right back after this short break with a look ahead at the 2026 election right here on ICTV. Welcome back to Election Night 2025. There might not be any federal elections this year, but both state and local elections could serve as a preview into how the Democratic Party will try to rebound next year after an underperformance in the 2024 election. The Democrats will have the opportunity to flip both the House and Senate as they try to limit the power of President Donald Trump and the Republicans. The Republicans, on the other hand, will look to keep their trifecta by keeping control of Congress to continue to forward President Trump's agenda with few obstacles. New York Governor Kathy Hochul was first sworn in after former Governor Andrew Cuomo resigned from his position in 2021. She was re-elected in 2022 after running her own successful election campaign. Some of Hochul's accomplishments during her term include raising the minimum wage in the state of New York from $12.50 an hour to now $15.50, increased aid to schools by almost $8 billion, and has seen a 53% decrease in gun violence throughout the state. However, in recent months, Hochul's approval rating has stayed at around 45 to 50% overall. Hochul of New York is running for a second term next election season in 2026. Hochul faces declining approval ratings, as well as the Lieutenant Governor Antonio Delgado announcing to run against her in the Democratic primary, which presents a challenge. With the governor's race in New York being solidly blue, both the primary and general elections are on track to receive national attention and millions in spending. Hochul's high profile, with her raising of $4 million in the first half of 2025 and prevailing in a lawsuit over the Trump administration's effort to block New York City's congestion pricing plan, puts her in high contention. Political leaders from both parties are now pushing to redraw lines for U.S. House districts in their states in order to favor their party for the upcoming midterm elections in 2026. Redrawing district lines does not happen often and rarely occurs mid-cycle. Republicans currently have control of the House, but if 3 more seats flip blue, the Democrats can regain control and have the power to block President Trump's agenda. 3 states have already redrawn lines: Missouri, Texas, and North Carolina, while states like Indiana and Virginia push to legislators to do the same. Attracting lots of noise is California, who today have Proposition 50 on their ballot to approve redrawing House lines in a counteractive measure to Texas's decision. Former Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, had this to say about the redistricting.
Districting mid-decade. We don't think that that's right. But the fact is, we have self-defense for democracy, because this is a president who's doing what he's doing to reinforce abolishing the House of Representatives, getting rid of the beauty, the exquisite beauty of the Constitution.
We'll be right back after this short break with more live updates right here on ICTV's Election Night coverage. Stick with us. Welcome back to Election Center 2025. We return to give some breaking news and to put a bow on a pair of local elections. Beginning in Ward 1, a reminder that Jorge DeFendini wins over Republican candidate Zachary Wynn. We also have breaking news in Ward 5. Projected winner Hannah Schvetz is going to win, reportedly over Jeep Surrenda. Huge thank you to our hardworking research team for that data. Now tonight, we've had the privilege of covering local races and breaking news about projected winners for Ithaca and Tompkins County. Before we go, we have reviewed some of the most pressing and contested races for Ithaca and Tompkins County. We have mentioned a few of the results. When we have news for more, we will keep you posted. Those are the highlights for the evening here in Tompkins County as of now. Let's head to our big board analyst, Cece Gabriel, to see how things are looking in the Big Apple as we close out our night. Cece?
I don't know what I'm talking about. Guys, as we said before, Mamdani won, and here we are again. We'll have more updates for you as we come back.
Welcome back. We are now going to throw to Cece Gabriel, who's got more on the latest.
Well, thanks, guys. As we mentioned before, it was Mamdani that had won the mayoral election in New York City. And from there, there's a lot of different things that New York can now look forward to, pertaining to a bold change, affordability, taxes, and new approaches to policies. Now, Cuomo and Adams had different kinds of flavors pertaining to what they had. Cuomo had experience, and he potentially had that comeback, where Adams had an incumbent record. But in terms of conservative rights and lames, we saw that Sliwa had a law and order, business-friendly, lower tax alternative. Now, watching for the crossover for voters, independent, suburban leading Democrats and moderate Republicans had all played a part in terms of how this election had pertaining to a lot of people's different values, their beliefs, and the changes that they wanted, especially with how the presidential race has been so far, with Trump being in office at this point in time. We're now going to send these back over to the studio. Thank you, and we're going to send it back to Nikita.
Thank you so much, Cece. Before we wrap up tonight, let's take a look at a few more results which have come in the last few minutes. We've mentioned Ithaca Ward 1 alderperson, where Jorge DeFendini defeated Republican Zachary Wynn. We also discussed the victory for Democrat Hannah Schvetz over Jeep Zarenda. But we do have breaking news out of Dryden with the County Legislator District 10, where Dan Wakeman, the Democrat, has won over Bull Moose Party Representative Thomas C. Corey. We also have news out of Lansing District 8, where Jamie Perkins of the Lansing Lighthouse Party has defeated Republican Michael J. Sigler. That's all we have for Election Night 2025. Make sure to check your voter registration status, poll site, and mail-in ballot status before the upcoming election, which happens today. Your vote is your voice, so make sure it's heard. Check out more from ICTV on ictv.org or on social media at ICTV607. Thanks for watching this year's Election Night broadcast. Have a great night.